The 2025 NBA season is approaching quickly, and it's going to be one of the best yet. We have some NBA All-Stars repping new teams, familiar squads trying to win championships, and loads of young talent waiting for their chance to take over the league. In this video, we're going to bring up some different points that will break down the entire 2025 season, and towards the end, we'll reveal who will win the championship and Finals MVP. The first thing we have to look at when analyzing the 2025 NBA season is the fact that a bunch of teams look entirely different. Whether they have new coaches or new All-Stars repping their jerseys, certain teams that were awesome last year are going to be playing different ball in 2025. The biggest change was probably the Knicks trading Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo for Karl Anthony Towns. There was a bunch of mixed opinions about this trade, and overall I think it was solid for both teams. I think New York did win this trade slightly because they absolutely needed a big man. Mitchell Robinson is always injured, and even when he's playing, I think he's a fringe top 15 center in the league, if that. So getting an all-star big man like Cat was a great move. For the T-Wolves, DiVincenzo is going to be an awesome bench piece who's a playoff riser. And even though I question Julius Randle at times, there's no denying he's one of the more talented players in the league. We also saw Paul George signing with the 76ers, and that creates a lethal big three in the Eastern Conference if they could stay healthy. I'm honestly torn about where they'll finish in the East, so leave a comment down below where Philadelphia will end up in the standings. Klay Thompson is now a Maverick, and even though people say he's washed, I think he'll help their team out a lot. He's still a lethal three-point shooter, and in the finals, one of their biggest problems was with outside shooting. He's definitely not the guy he used to be, but I don't see the harm in it at all. But that might not matter at all because the OKC Thunder managed to add Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein to their squad. They already finished with the top seed in the West last year, and adding two of the best role players in the NBA should definitely make them overwhelming favorites to win the West. DeMar DeRozan is on the Kings now too, which is going to be weird to see, but a great fresh start from one of the best vets in the game. Other moves across the NBA include Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to the Magic, Tobias Harris to the Pistons, Russell Westbrook to the Nuggets, and Buddy Hield to the Warriors. Yeah, this season is going to be fun. With all these players moving around, let's look at some early frontrunners for NBA awards. Starting with MVP, the favorite seems to be a guy that we've seen in the race the past couple of years but never got hardware, and that's Luka Doncic. His numbers are always insane, and I get the hype, but if he didn't win last year, I don't know what he needs to do. He averaged 34 points, 10 assists, and 9 rebounds while leading the Mavericks to 50 wins and finished third in the voting. I don't think Dallas will be that much better in the regular season, and can he really up his numbers enough to win the award if he isn't a top 4 seed? I think the better picks would be either Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Nikola Jokic because we know their team will win regular season games, and they're still going to put up numbers. Defensive Player of the Year really has one direction to go in, and that's Victor Wembanyama. We know he's going to block shots and protect the paint at all costs, so he should definitely win it. And honestly, he probably should have won it last year after a historic rookie season. Coach of the Year might actually have a repeat with Mark Daigneault and the Thunder, but if the Knicks have a really good season under Tibbs, or Mazzulla leads the Celtics to an insane record, I could also see them winning the award. Sixth Man of the Year could be a couple of guys, but I personally think it's going to come down to Malik Monk and Donte DiVincenzo. Both of these guys are buckets off the bench, and both of these teams are going to be good, so we'll have to see how it ends up playing out. Most improved player is probably going to be Wemby as well, because we've seen players who are already really good win the award in past years, like when Tyrese Maxey won it last year and John Moran a couple years ago. Many people aren't familiar with this year's rookie class, but the Rookie of the Year race is going to be a tight one. Reed Shepherd and Matas Buzelis are probably the best picks just because they're going to have an opportunity and they seem NBA ready. But Zachary Ricochet, the first overall pick, and Stefan Castle are also good choices. Those are probably going to be the award races for the 2025 season, but as we all know, anything can happen. The third point we gotta talk about is the best teams in each conference because we can't predict the 2025 season without talking about it. Let's start with the East and talk about the heavy favorites and some sleepers throughout the conference. As you probably guessed, the best team in the East is definitely going to be the Celtics once again. Their roster is just too good. I will say I do question their depth a little bit, especially in the backcourt, but they won the championship last year with the same roster, so they're going to be fine. After them, I think it's pretty clear that the next couple of teams will be the 76ers and Knicks on top. They both got some great offseason acquisitions, and if you look at their rosters, they can definitely compete. After that, you have the teams like the Bucks, Pacers, Magic, Cavaliers, and Heat that will be very close. But I think you should definitely watch out for the state of Florida. The Magic got better this offseason, and with another year of development, Paulo could take an even further step than last season. And the Heat are getting a little underrated because of how last year ended, but their roster is finally filled with competent players around Jimmy Butler and Bam. Rozier and Hero provide some great offensive explosion, and their young guys could be really good. Now, if you take a look at the West, that's a dogfight. There are legitimately 6 teams that I think could be very good this season, which means that some other good teams are going to be forced into the play-in. I think the Thunder will get the 1 seed again because all the young guys got more experience under their belt, and they added those 2 veterans we talked about earlier. The Nuggets, Suns, and Timberwolves will be right behind them, and I think people need to take a closer look at Phoenix. When your two best players are both undisputed top 20 in the league, you're going to be taken seriously no matter what. They added Tyus Jones to the roster, and we'll have to see how Mike Budenholzer uses this squad. Then there's the Mavericks, who added Clay and are coming off of an insane playoff run, and of course there's the Kings with DeMar. After that, there are still a ton of teams who could surprise the West, like the Lakers, Pelicans, Grizzlies, and the biggest sleeper team on this list, the Rockets. They were playing great ball towards the end of last season, with Jalen Green finally playing efficient, and we all know Sengun is a dog. I can't see them anywhere but the play-in, which kinda sucks, but they could prevent a team like the Lakers or Pelicans from making the playoffs. After looking at both conferences, which one do you think is going to be better during the 2025 season? Now that we listed off the best teams in both conferences, let's get into our next point, and that's who the biggest concerns are. In the East, I'm not gonna lie, I'm scared of the Celtics' big man rotation. Kristaps is missing time early in the season, and even if he comes back, who knows how long he could stay healthy. In the finals, instead of playing Gobert and Towns or Jokic, they got lucky and played an inexperienced Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. If they make it there again and face a better setter going against an aging Al Horford again, I don't think they can repeat as champions. I have the same concerns with the Knicks because even though they got Cat, who else do they have? Mitchell Robinson is always hurt, and after that they have Precious Achiuwa, so I'm worried about their big man situation too. The 76ers always scare me with injuries, and this season they added PG, who just got hurt and has his own concerns. If this team is healthy, they are a legitimate title contender, but that's a huge if, and I'm just worried with them as always. And then finally, the Milwaukee Bucks acquired Damian Lillard but never got to see the postseason potential because Giannis Antetokounmpo missed the playoffs last year. This was devastating because the East looked wide open. The Celtics had a pretty easy run to the finals. This was awful since the Bucks are actively trying to find that 2021 magic again, but I'm sure that Giannis will come back motivated. Keep in mind it's one of their last shots to win a title with this roster since everyone is aging on the team. In the West, the concerns are a little less worrisome, but there's always at least a couple. I'm really not worried about the Thunder because I think they'll win 60 plus games and make a run in the playoffs, so let's keep going. The Timberwolves are still very talented after losing Cap, but I do have some concerns with Julius Randle. He's really talented, but sometimes it seems like he gets unmotivated and disinterested, which is very scary for any contender. I've heard Knicks fans say that the team was better without him on the floor, and we're going to have to see how he gels with Ant. The Nuggets lost KCP in this offseason, which is scary because he was such a big part of their championship team. Obviously, they still have Jokic, a 3-time MVP, but Jamal Murray has been struggling as of late, and I don't know if this team has enough to get back to the top. Christian Brown is going to play a bigger role, which is exciting but also scary. And they're relying on a couple unproven guys, which is always a little questionable. And then the rest of the West is a huge toss-up with the Suns trying to have a bounce-back year, the Lakers trying to figure out a rotation, and the Mavs trying to repeat their success. Now let's talk about who's going to win it all. The East is going to be a lot closer than last year if the squads could stay healthy, but honestly, you can't bet against the Celtics. As I said, their depth is a little worrisome, but they're still so dominant, and their starting five is the best in basketball. There is a universe where the Knicks find themselves on top of the hill, or Joel Embiid is finally healthy for a full playoff run, but if I had to take a guess, I would say it's Boston all the way. It's more interesting in the West because seeds 1 through 8 are insanely competitive. I would narrow it down to 4 true contenders, and those would be the Thunder, Nuggets, Suns, and Timberwolves. The Suns seem out of place, but I think they had a pretty good offseason, getting Tyus Jones as their point guard and letting the team play together for another season. And at the end of the day, I think the Thunder will end up making the finals. They have such a good mix of efficient offense and lockdown defense that I think they'll run the table and win the Western Conference Finals. When it comes down to Thunder Celtics, I'm going to pick an upset here and go with the Oklahoma City Thunder as the next NBA champions. I think Chet is a matchup nightmare for the Celtics, and a mix of Hartenstein and Holmgren will lock down the paint. And that's our breakdown of the 2025 NBA season. Basketball starts in less than a week, so make sure to watch that and click on the screen for more basketball content.